Hello, I am going to go ahead and show you how to use Photopea in the most basic ways. So, the first thing you're going to do is you are going to open it up. It's just photopea.com. Super easy. You can also type in Google search Photopea and click on the first link. So, Photopea is a really cool company. It's designed to be almost identical to Photoshop. If you've ever used Photoshop, um, it's a really popular photo editing program. And in addition to photo editing, you can do things like digital painting, you can create flyers, you can do all kinds of wonderful graphic design or digital art projects. So, I am going to show you how to basically the basics of using Photopea. And maybe eventually, if you get to use the more robust program, Photoshop, you will feel a little bit like you kind of know how to start. So we're going to start off first by creating a new file. So I'm going to go up to the very top over here, click on New Project, and then I'm going to give it a title. I always title it with the year, the project that we're doing. So we're going to just do a practice one for now. And then you put in your name. My last name is Morin, so I'm going to put in Morin, but you can put your first name in there if you want. Now, this probably isn't going to make much sense to you as pixels, so let's change it to inches. And let's make it a little smaller. Let's make the width 8.5. And the height we'll do 11, so that it's a portrait orientation for normal computer-sized paper. Then down here we have the DPI, which is digital pixels per inch. We're going to change this to 300. We'll give it a good printing size. Oh, I forgot that this does this. When you change this to 300, it then shrinks this down to this like itty bitty size. So let's go back to width, change it back, 8.5 by 11. There are some differences between this program and Photoshop, and that is one of them. So let's go ahead and press create. Now you have a nice little standard sheet of paper here. Now, the interface that you have in front of you is very similar looking to Photoshop. So if you ever get a chance to use it, like this is a totally free program that you could easily move into Photoshop after using this program. Over here on the right, you will see layers, channels, and paths. We're going to stick to layers for now, and you'll see that it says background. It always comes in with a white background layer. We're going to add on top of that layer, we're going to go down to the bottom right where there is this little, it looks like a post-it note. You're going to click on new layer, and you're going to go over to the words for new layer. You're going to hit it twice until it gives you the option to edit the title of the layer, and you're going to name this one blue. And then you're going to do another new layer, and you're going to edit the name of this one as well to red. Now you'll see that my layer that I'm on is highlighted in a lighter gray. I want you to click on the blue layer, and then I'm going to have you go to the left-hand side of your screen to these different tools that are over here. And we're going to go over to the tool that looks a little bit like a paintbrush, and it's called the brush tool. And you'll notice there's a little B in parentheses. That's a hotkey. So you could either click on the brush tool, or you could click on the letter B on your keyboard, and it will give you the brush tool. If you hold this button down, you'll see that there are other options, but we're just going to stick with brush tool for now. Now, once we're in the brush tool, you'll see that it's set at 15 for the size. If we click on this little drop down arrow in this right next to the circle with the 15 in the top left, then you're going to go over and you can change the size. And if I change the size, you'll notice that my little circle on my cursor gets bigger. And then there's this hardness setting too. We'll play with that in just a minute. For now, I just want you to make it a fairly decent size. So I'm going to go up. Yeah, that's a pretty good size. And then let's go ahead and play with our colors, which my little thingy here is in the way. Oh, there we go. So I have my brush right now. It's at full hardness. And now I can play with colors. Now this layer is called blue because I want a blue layer. So if you select on the little black box in the black and white corner, left-hand corner, and then you'll get a color picker. You could actually pick a color from, if you were working from a photograph, by just clicking on it over here, move, and then you can click on something over here. Or what you can do is you can, manipulate it, do what you want it to be. So I actually want it to be blue. I want it to be, we'll do this color blue, a pretty bright color. And then press OK. And notice my black square has now turned into a blue square. And I'm going to draw a little bit on here, right? So just draw a random shape for now. Keep it school appropriate, please. And then I'm going to go back up to my brushes where I changed the size, and I'm going to move the hardness down to 0. You'll notice that with this change in hardness, I get a softer, kind of fuzzy looking brush. So that's really the difference between hardness and no hardness. You can do a fuzzier look, which will make it so that you can blend a little bit better if you're going to blend it into two colors. Now, if I want to undo something, so say I made a mistake and I go, oh, I really don't like that line there, I'm going to get rid of it. It's easy to go up to Edit, Undo, right? And you can also redo in this spot, or you can do the hotkey, which is Control-Z. Now, once you've done your blue on this layer, on the blue layer, let's now go to the red layer. So if I click on the red layer here, and then I go make sure that I change my brush. So maybe I want the hardness of my brush to be all the way up again. You can also change the type of brush you use. So there's different brushes in here. This one is a round, noisy marker. Let's play around with that. Let's see what happens with that. And then I'm going to go over here to my blue, and I'm going to change it to red. I'm going to do very bright red. Yeah, that's a good red. Now, it's real small again, so I might need to make it bigger if I want to be able to make marks. One way you can make things bigger without going into the window is by using the, see it on here, but the bracket tools will make your size of your brushes larger or smaller. That's your hotkey for that. And then you can draw on it, right? Well, that's kind of a cool brush. Let's see what else we have. Let's do this one. Let's make it a little bigger. Yeah, that one's cool. You could do some, like if you're doing some sort of cool thing with your with like graffiti or font. That would be kind of neat. Calligraphy type stuff. Alrighty, so I'm gonna go back to the hard round, and I'm gonna do a few more things on here. Now, one thing that you'll be able to do is, say you want to keep working on this, or you don't like where you put some of these red lines, right? Then a really good way to keep yourself from having to like redraw things or redo a whole section is to keep colors on separate layers, or even different values on separate layers. So I have my red and blue are separate layers right now. If I were to go over to the brush tool, hold it down and let go, you can see that one of the tools in this drop down here is the eraser tool, which has a hotkey E. If I click on the eraser tool and I go, well, I'm going to make my brush a little bigger with my right bracket. I really don't like where this blue is right here. So I'm going to go to the blue and I'm going to erase a little bit. Notice how I'm erasing the blue, right? I clicked on the blue layer. I'm now erasing the blue. Or maybe I just want to erase the red. So I click on the red layer. I erase some of the red. Maybe I don't want to erase all of the red. I just want to make the red like fade a little bit. So I'm going to go up to, you'll see there's these different brush modes here. And one of the things is opacity. If I change this to a really low number, each time I click, I'm not going to erase the whole thing. I'm actually going to fade it away into the background. And I like to do a soft brush for this. So I'm going to change my hardness all the way down. And now when I erase, it's going to be a gradual gradient change. And it looks so lovely, especially if you're trying to get some sort of layering look to it. This is really a cool way to adjust values and have colors transition into each other. So, I mean, look how cool that looks. And all I did was change the opacity of my eraser. You can also change the opacity of a regular brush too. So if I go back to my brush tool, so I just click on my brush tool here, then I can change the opacity of this tool too. And then when I draw with this tool, it's going to be a lighter version of that red. Now, say I'm trying to do something with my blue and my red's in the way. One thing you can do is you'll notice that there's different things here. So if I click on this little eyeball here next to the red, it makes my red disappear. Now my red isn't gone, it's just hidden, right? And if I click on it again, my red comes back, same position, it's still there. Another thing I can do is if you go over to this little lock right here, if I click this and I have this, my layer selected, it will lock that layer. So when I try to draw on things in this layer, it will tell me this layer is locked. That's always a good thing to do if you don't want to accidentally draw on a layer or select the wrong layer, is to lock your layers. Speaking of selecting layers, one of the last things I'm going to show you is selections. So I'm going to hide my red layer. I'm going to select my blue layer. And then I'm going to go over to a few different tools. So there's the Magic Wand tool, which will give you Magic Wand, quick selection, and object selection. I will say object selection is very slow, so it might crash your computer if you click on it and you're using a Chromebook. But quick selection is a really great tool. It All three of these will go by color and value, the color and value of each of the pixels. So if you have a lot of pixels that are the same color, like this blue area here, if I click on the magic wand tool, and then my computer's slow because I'm also recording. Give it a minute. If I click on the magic wand tool, there we go. You'll see that these like little marching ants show up around the edge. And if I try to do anything here, so say I try to brush on this layer, it will only brush. Let me change my opacity really fast. It will only brush on this blue area here. So even though I'm clicking outside of the blue area, it's only adding it to the blue area. All right, so that's kind of cool. But say, so I'm going to zoom back out for you. Alt, if you hold down Alt, it'll change it to a minus and you can zoom out. You can also click here to zoom out. If I go here, now it's selected. So if you're trying to get out of this, it can be kind of annoying if you're trying to do something somewhere else and something's selected. You need to go to select, deselect. And if you see this, it says Control D, right? That's your hotkey. So deselect will deselect it, and then you have full control again. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do magic wand, and I'm going to select an area. And then I'm also going to add an ellipse. So I went into the rectangle select, I went down to ellipse select, and now I want to add this. So I'm going to click on this button that says Unite, and I'm going to add in a circle. And now you can see that it selected the blue area and it selected this circle. And then I'm going to go over here to subtract, and I'm going to put another one in, and you'll notice that it now doesn't select anything within this box, right? Now I don't want to draw on this layer. I'm actually going to draw on the red layer. So I'm going to click on the red layer, and I'm going to go back to my brush tool, and now I'm going to draw. Didn't want to draw. Oh, that's right. There we go. Got to make sure your what you're doing is visible. So I'm going to make my layer visible, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw on this layer. When I draw on this layer, it will only draw in my selected areas here. And then I can also do the inverse. Layer, if I go to select and inverse or shift control I, now wherever it was selected before, it's going to be selected outside of that area, and it's going to allow me only to draw in those areas. So I'll have areas where it will let me draw and areas where it won't let me draw. And now if I deselect, which remember is Control D, now you can see where it was selected. I have all these new layers and cool things that I can do with it. So I know it looks a little bit like a mess on there, but it's a lot of fun to play around with this and try to do all kinds of random things with it. You're welcome to play around with this a little bit longer, and then when you're done, the last thing you're going to do is you are going to go in to your saving options. Let me check and make sure I covered everything first. Yeah. We're going to go to File in the top left, and you're going to save it as a PSD. Now, it's going to look slightly different on your computer than it does on mine, but essentially, you're going to be saving this file as a PSD file, and you're going to be uploading it to Google Classroom. It's not going to allow you to see a preview. I mean, it might. It depends on the size of the file. But if you open it up in Photopea, it should be fine. But you're saving it as a PSD file, right? If you were using this for something at home and you wanted to save it as something else, you would go to export as. PNG and JPEG are normal picture files, so those will be easily accessed through other programs. PSD files really are only accessible through Photoshop or Illustrator. Sometimes some other programs can open them, but what it does is it saves your layers too, and those other programs most likely will not allow you to see your layers. So there you have it. That's like the very, 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 very basics of this program. And hopefully this video wasn't too long and you enjoyed playing around with this program that's totally free to use. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.